Thank you so much for joining us and welcome back. We're starting off with the love conversation. Some would say, why should we have a special day to celebrate love? Shouldn't we celebrate love every other day? Well, perhaps the answer to that would be, why not set aside a day to remind ourselves of why we love each other, right? So let's get right into the conversation and understand, the origin of the celebration of this day itself and its relevance over the ages and over the centuries. So joining us on this particular segment of the program is Reverend Father Jude Mary Owo, a Catholic priest who joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Father.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, sir, and happy Valentine's Day.
I wish you the very same.
Okay, so let's start with the reflections of the origin of Valentine's Day and its relevance in the continued celebration many years down the line.
Okay, so Valentine's Day has a very interesting origin, right? In the Catholic Church, it is traced back to the 3rd century to the Saint Valentine. But over time, we have discovered, the church has also reflected on this origin and said there are several stories making the rounds. And this is typical of the age because this is a time when documentation is not exactly a very strong point in the world as a whole, not less of the church. But there are stories that grow out of experiences. And one of such stories tells us that there was a saint by name Valentine, who was a priest. And he lived at a time when there was widespread persecution against the church. And by the church, I mean the Catholic Church, because at the time, there was just one church. And he was accused of breaking the Roman law of wedding men and women when the emperor at the time, Valens II, was against marriage because in his own understanding, it made men weak. Because if I'm married, I am less likely to join the army and go to fight wars for the empire. So he banned marriages. So this priest continued wedding men and women secretly because they wanted to continue to have families and all of that. So he was imprisoned, tortured, and eventually killed because of that. So that is one story. There are several other stories surrounding the life of St. Valentine. But 200 years down the line, the church presented him as a model of one who is there to help people understand the essence of true love, which is the fact that a man and a woman come together in the sacrament of matrimony and must start a family. Then, over time, this celebration of love, which is the love between a man and a woman in marriage, has taken different turns, right? And now it is more of a celebration of romantic love. You would say a day to meet with your significant other over drinks, food, and in some other more debauched forms, a day to partake of all kinds of vices. So somehow the church has kind of distanced itself from those kinds of celebration and helps us understand that, look, love is something that you should celebrate every day. You don't need a specific day to celebrate love or to express love to people that are in your life. In fact, that should be the one and only commandment. Luke chapter 10, verse 27 makes it very clear. Love God above every other thing and love your neighbor as yourself. And if you're wondering who your neighbor is, it's the person sitting right next to you who has need of your assistance.
Brilliant, Father, and that was why I asked you to tell us about the relevance in today's celebration. Love against all forms of adversity, because the Saint Valentine himself, married couples who were forbidden to marry. You talked about the church distancing itself, from the celebration of love as it is done today. But shouldn't there be a continuing education or reminder? And that's why we have St. Valentine's Day celebration anyway, about what it truly represents because of this seeming erosion of the value of the celebration itself.
I think it's relevant for the church to still speak about it, and we do. in many forms, right? So I run a media center where I speak about such things. This Sunday on our YouTube channel, the discussion um, will be part of our conversation. But then beyond that, the celebration of St. Valentine's Day is no longer a church celebration, right? It's now in the public space where Muslims, Christians, people who don't even have any religious affiliation see it as a day to eat, drink, take their girlfriends or their boyfriends out. And, there's a trend now, PDA, show public display of affection. So it's not, even when you speak about it from a religious point of view, they are not listening to you because, like I said, it's already in the public space. So, we can continue to speak to those within our own communities, within our community of faith, to say, look, as much as everyone seems to be taking the wrong route out, you should be conscious of who you are as a Christian. You're a child of God, first of all, and you're called to love others as God has loved you, unconditional love that God has for us in sending His Son to die for our sins. So that should be the orientation. And that should be the way you treat your brother, that's the way you should treat your sister, that's the way you should love your husband and love your wife and love your children and mirror for them true love. Because the society out there won't show you how to love, but you can, through what you know already, by being better informed, you can mirror for other people the essence of true love.
So, Father, are you saying that technically the church, which this originates from, especially the Catholic Church, has given up on this idea?
Like I said, not that we've given up on the idea, but as it is practiced today, it is no longer within the church's confines. The church cannot determine for society that has, in a way, taken this celebration onto themselves and tell them, no, this is what you should do. We live in a day and a time when people want to do what they want to do. But what we can do, and what we do, is to remind those within our community, our faith community, that you shouldn't be seen to practice this celebration the way people out there do it.
And so what would be the right one for people who may just be interested in the subject? I know it's a common conversation. It's been there for many, many years, as you've rightly and historically traced. What is the right way to celebrate Valentine's Day? And what is the wrong way to celebrate Valentine's Day?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. So let's go with the right way to celebrate love. First is, remember the origin, right? The person whose name we celebrate died because he wanted to protect the dignity of marriage. And there's something about marriage which many of us today confuse. And it is the fact that a man and a woman who love each other decide to unite themselves in their journey towards God, to say, we are now together, working our salvation out, leading us to heaven. That should be the first and most important thing. And within that institution called marriage, love is to be celebrated, love is to be taught. So the marriage institution becomes the school of love, the place where parents mirror an image for their children, how they ought to love each other. And love in this case involves not just displays of affection, but also forgiveness, mutual understanding, listening, generosity with time, with treasures, with your talent, and also treating other people better than you would consider that they deserve, right? So loving other people, being generous with your gifts towards other people who you see to be in need, you assist them. So the home should be the first place, the first school of love. But what you find today is that most parents are not there for their children. They're not there. They're not present to themselves. So what now results what comes up as a result of that is that there's a dysfunction. And where love is not celebrated in the home, children go out to look for love where they may not find it. And that creates more problem for the society. So how not to celebrate this day? Do not consider this the only day to show love, whether to someone that you claim to have an intimate relationship with, or someone that you just know as a friend. And it should not be the day to, collect all the things that you're giving to somebody. Guys would shower gifts upon this person that they are trying to woo, and then today now becomes payback day. Shouldn't be that way. If you love somebody, you should love them irrespective of how they return that love to you. Love should be free. It should be generous. It should be for the good of the other person. So when love becomes selfish, when love becomes about myself, then it's no longer love. It's lust, it's selfishness, and that is basically what's killing us today.
Well, Father, what we're doing basically now is maybe sanctifying today, because it looks like a lot of untoward things may want to go down. That's why we're starting with you, so that will set the tone for this day, so things will now go all right. I was just, as you were talking about St. Valentine's and how this started, I was curious if St. Valentine's was still here, if you were to maybe pay a quick visit to the earth right now, do you think you'll be proud of how Valentine's is being celebrated? Maybe especially in Lagos.
I leave that to you to decide, because like we said, we've established that the celebration now is it's a far cry from what he stood for, what he died for, right? He died because he wanted to preserve the dignity of the married state of marriage. And today, that's not what is being celebrated. Most people don't even think that they should enter into marriage. They don't think that love should be expressed in the formalized institution of marriage. Love should just be as I come and go. You know, you take it and you move on, right? So I get what I want, you get what you want, and everybody is okay, even if that is not okay. So I don't think he'll be happy with what we're celebrating today.
Interesting. And I know the term love is used a lot, sometimes loosely. And some don't really know what it is, what love looks like, so they just use the term, I love you. So is there a way to really identify, are there different kinds of love, so people will know what they are in? I think that's the beginning of discovery and recovery. First, identify what you're dealing with. Is this the true version? Is this the fake version of love? So do we have different kinds of love, and how do you identify which one you're in?
Okay, so I basically just tell people that there is love, right? And there's no better place to find it than in the letter of St. Paul, the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 13, from verse 6, tells us, love is not boastful, love is not conceited, love is does not keep a record of wrongs, love basically endures all things, is patient, is kind, you know, it does not keep a record of wrongs. So basically, if you want to ask for a synonym for love, I would say sacrifice. If love does not entail sacrifice, entail giving up something from your own self, then it's not love. It's basically self-seeking. So the whole idea of, there is agape love, there is nostalgia, there is eros. I think all of that is just basically we trying to explain our own desire to move away from what love really means. If you want to see what love is, look at the cross. There's a cross right behind me. Just a reminder to me every day that it must cost you something. If it doesn't cost you anything, then it's not love.
So, Father, I have an interesting question for you this morning, because there seems to be a disagreement about who should really be celebrating love. Some people think Valentine's Day love, because some people think that, it's a women's thing. So is it really a women's thing, or is it an all of us kind of celebration? Please help us put things in proper perspective this morning.
Okay, from origin, right? When St. Valentine broke the Roman law in order to marry people, he wasn't marrying women. No, he was marrying a man and a woman. Because the understanding is this is divine law. For God loves us so much that he wants men and women to be companions, mutual companions. And so love is not one-sided. I know sometimes when we talk about marriage, we speak about it being the woman's day, because the woman has lived all her life wishing and waiting for that day when she walked down the aisle all dressed in white. But love is not just about women. It's not about men alone either. It's about all of us, right? And it's about God, who has created us in love and wants us to express that love that he has for us with one another. Without our own consent, he created us. And if he has showered so much love on us in giving us the gift of life, giving us the gift of one another, then we ought to celebrate it with one another. So yes, there is that funny idea that women are the ones who are gifted on Valentine's Day. If you truly admire and respect the men in your life, you also want to gift them on that day. So it should be a mutual thing. It shouldn't just be one-sided. The men providing the gift and the women being on the receiving end. So I think if you really love somebody, you want to show them how much they mean to you.
All right, so Father, there's a group that is left out of this conversation, the children. Maybe you can help us bring them into the conversation, because while men are arguing that women take it a bit more seriously, or women are saying this about men and whether it's right, wrong, and we're trying to trace origin, the children are just watching and looking. Where are they in the mix?
I think I mentioned that when I spoke about marriage, right? And I mentioned the fact that sometimes we forget that it's about the family. And the first school of love is the home, the family. The way a man and a woman express love for each other shows their children the true picture of love. I am a beneficiary of that. I tell people I never saw my parents argue or quarrel or fight physically. Like, you would know that, yeah, there's something off when somehow they're giving each other the silent treatment. But then after a few hours, they're back to talking again. So that love between a husband and a wife should be the model for their children. And the way both of them care for their children in raising their children intentionally should be the way they also show their children that they love them. And then, of course, parents are the primary caregivers of their children. So instilling in them the right values, providing for their well-being, feeding, clothing, shelter, and all of that, and occasionally celebrating them at significant points during their life, birthdays, anniversaries of different aspects of their life. All of this is a sign to their children of what true love should entail. And if they do it right, their children will not need the validation that their parents give to them from elsewhere, which is where the problem comes up. Because many times, because the parents do not mirror for their children the confidence that the children ought to have for themselves, children look for it elsewhere. And that's why you see all manner of, all versions of aberrations of love are being practiced, because children are seeking the validation and the care that their parents ordinarily should give to them.
And that's a very valid point, Father. I want you to also speak to this point, because this will play out all through the day. And sometimes you realize days like this leave people worse, leaves them worse off. So how do people internalize what they get or what they do not get today? There's a certain gender that has been accused of always giving boxers, singlets, and all of those lovely gifts. And another gender is saying we don't want such again. So if peradventure you get boxer singlet for maybe the 20th time today, should you feel not as loved? Maybe you're given a car and then you get boxers and singlet, a lot of them. How should you internalize it? One, for those who don't get anything at all and they had been expecting, and they don't get not even a text message. Again, how do they internalize it? And for those who get big, big things and they think, I am really loved, is that really the true measure of love? So 3 categories. How do they work it out? But start with the boxers and singlets group.
It's interesting, right? There's a long history to the boxer singlet. and at some point I was a victim of it too. So I'll speak to it passionately, because I think, first of all, love is not a generic thing, right? Display of love, rather, not love itself, but the display of love should not be generic. It shouldn't just be a mindless gifting. If you know this person, you're in a relationship with this person, any version of relationship, whether it's intimate or casual or just a colleague in the office, part of the duty of loving this person is knowing their needs, right? Sometimes they're not looking to you to give them something expensive or an actual physical gift. Let me just give you a very interesting example, right? So during our last production for our TV program, one of my presenters gave me a box of snacks, what we call chin chin, right? But then she wrote a note on it that says, everybody deserves a producer and a director like yourself. And for me, that note was more valuable than what she gave me as the gift, because it was more thoughtful. It was more an acknowledgement of my contribution to her as a person. So know the persons in your life and know where you can gift them. Are they people who value physical gift? Yes. Are they people who value validation and kind words? Do that more often. if that love has to be concretized in something, in the gift, let it cost you something, right? Let it not just be something that you can do without, something that you can just, I'm running out of ideas. What do I do? Boxer and singlet. I think you should put a little more thought into the gift that you give. And then let the other person know too, if you don't have the means to give them something befitting, can you at least spend time with them? Can you at least be there for them? Can you at least go out of your way to afford them something that will cost you something? It may be a meal. I just say, okay, can we go out for a meal? It could be text message, something that is not generic, not forwarded as received, right? It should cost you something. That should be the underlying message. Let it cost you something. Let it have a tone or an overture of sacrifice.
What if you don't get anything? That's the people that don't get anything at all today. How should they internalize this?
Okay, well, we would say all fingers are not equal, right? So if I don't receive any gifts, have I given anyone any gift? So I shouldn't just be on the receiving end only, or waiting for others to gift me. Can I go out of my way and give someone something, knowing that I feel bad that no one has given me anything? Can I at least put somebody out of that misery by saying, what can I give? Right? There is more joy, Scripture says, in giving than in receiving. So let's not all be on the receiving end only. Love is about giving. Love is about sacrifice. So if you have not received, make sure that somebody else receives from you. You feel joy and peace from that.
All right, Father, we get the memo on the boxers and singlet, but I was hoping that you also help balance the conversation for those who are going to be giving the girls the uninspiring roses, knowing that within the context of Nigerian celebration of Valentine's Day, girls do not particularly have that much appreciation for roses. They can be more
They can
be more creative, and we're not asking that they buy us an aircraft, really. But, they can be more... right, Father, am I speaking the truth, Father?
He's not a woman.
Leave Father to answer. Yeah, Father.
Of course, adjourning that conversation about boxes and singlets is the phrase, na flower agriculture. Then the thing is, it should be a balanced situation, right? Talk to the other person. That's why you're in a relationship with them. That's why you're friends with them. Pose hypothetical questions. What would you want to? What do you need? What would you want to be given as a gift on such a day? What are you looking forward to receiving on such a day? You can come up with conversations like that. If you really love this person and this person is open to you, they will tell you. They will give you hints. But then, in your hinting, try not to be too vague. There was a story told of a husband and a wife where the woman asked the husband about that she's finding it hard that she actually loves books. It's just that she doesn't have the time to read them. And then the husband just made the mental note, say, okay, I will get you something that will help you read better. Okay, and then on the Valentine's Day that followed that conversation, the man got her a pair of glasses. I don't know. So sometimes you can give the wrong signal and the person can take the wrong idea out of it. So be clear in your communication to say, look, if you want to give me something, let it be something that I need, right? Let it be something that I can remember you by. I would always say, make your gifts memorable. Let it be something that the person can see, use, and appreciate every time they see it. They remember you by it. So let's be a little more creative, not just from the point of view of the men alone, but also women. Let's be creative. Let's do things differently.
Yeah, by all means, it's been a very constructive conversation. Thank you so much, Father, for your time and thoughts on the program. We've been speaking with Reverend Father Jude Mary Owo, a Catholic priest who joined us virtually from Yaba in Lagos. Thank you so much, sir, for your time on the program.
Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's Day to you one more time.